Ramaphosa, you have let us down. You said we must send you, but you failed us. Hawa Rumeha, you went to do the worse than Zuma. If your statistician general, no less a person, tells you that you've got 30 million illegal immigrants, why don't you say to these people, listen, you gotta leave? In the last 3 episodes of our podcast, we spoke to 3 different leaders. Julius Malema to kick off our podcast season, Helen Zille, as well as Herman Mashaba, who both are running for the city of Johannesburg. And there was a running theme about migration. And these leaders are taking 3 different postures, which actually shows the divisive nature of this whole issue of migration. And I don't really intend to go deeper into it this time around, but just to say to the country, there is a need here for us to bring our heads together about how this issue can be an opportunity to reflect on how we look at the whole issue of, for me, the big issue is regional integration. The reality is, and this is where I agree with somebody like President Mbeki, there will always be migration down south. Right? In other words, people in the continent see South Africa as one of the most sophisticated economies where there are more opportunities, so they will definitely come through. I don't think that's big news for us. We've always known this. And the question is, do we have a government that has a political will to manage that migration better? Clearly, with the numbers that the Statistician General is giving us, 30 million, possible 30 million undocumented migrants, because if they're undocumented, one wonders how they then know that there are 30 million. That's possibly a conservative number. That shows you the extent of the mismanagement of the economy, the extent of the mismanagement of the migration issue. It's been 2 years since the DA took over that ministry. And of course, as you heard Helen Zille on our second episode, excusing the minister of Home Affairs. I haven't seen him being front and center of this conversation, even the crisis that is upon us that may be happening, with the threats of a shutdown or marches or whatever you want to call it on the 30th. I think the DA minister there has handled the matter quite poorly from a leadership point of view, to a point where the DA leader thought he should address the nation last night, and tell us that he's going to be praying and so. What we need is more than prayer. We need the courage of a government that can realize that, first of all, this thing is a crisis. Secondly, that you can't simply, do what you used to call skip and donor, skip and donor, so that you spend 600 million to skip and donor, and you think you're going to solve the issue. The reality is different. You cannot put a lid on a boiling pot forever. And the boiling pot here is, rightly or wrongly, South Africans feel that this matter has been mismanaged, and therefore they are looking for someone to blame, to say these foreigners who are here illegally are taking our jobs and so on. The reality, unfortunately, and it's not a popular thing, is that the unemployment rate, the hunger of 40 million people who live under bridges is not because of foreigners. It's because of a mismanaged economy by a government that has lost all credibility in terms of its job, which is to take care of its citizens. But let's see what happens after the 30th. Will it be a wake-up call for government to attend to these 30 million people? Because when I listen to the president's address to the nation on this matter, I don't hear a decisive action that says this is a crisis, this is what we are going to do. I would have thought, for example, why don't you say to people, if your statistician general, no less a person, tells you that you've got 30 million illegal immigrants, why don't you say to these people, listen, you gotta leave. We're gonna give you, you can shoot me about it, but you can give people an amnesty. Say to people, we're giving you up till the end of the year to come forward, right? Like we've seen how the Malawians have come forward. Give all the other people the same opportunity. Come forward so that we can have a proper immigration exit for you, right? Or, as the Ghanaians were arguing, Some of them were here for jobs, etc. They came in, their visas expired, and because of the inefficiencies at the Home Affairs, they are sitting around not knowing what to do. It's not something you can ignore, but it will show that there's some decisive action that says, how are you going to bring this 30 million, illegal foreigners number to something that is reasonable, that is reasonable in terms of world standards? Immigration, you'll never get rid of it completely. But if you are talking 30 million, you're talking about utter mismanagement, which is not a surprise. It's not unique to immigration. So many things are being mismanaged. You only have to look at the roads. You only need to look at the health system. You only need to look at many other areas of our economy. And so to expect that immigration was going to be suddenly the best managed part of an entirely mismanaged ecosystem of our politics would, for me, have been naive. But let me talk about the impeachment. Very, very interesting times that we have now. We've had a president who for 6 years did not bother to review a report that said he has got a case to answer. And I'll tell you why he didn't do that. It's because in this country there is a tendency to get away with murder. And politicians have refined that art. They've refined it in such a way that it's actually laughing in the faces of the public who expect or who think they can hold them to account. Take the issue of the state capture report, for example. Over 100 names are in that report, particularly from the ANC higher echelons. The likes of Gwene Mantashe, the likes of Nomvula Mokonyane, the likes of Tabane Makwetla. I can mention a whole list of names. The likes of Zizi Kodwa, right? Top ANC officials, some of whom have been returned to cabinet. It was a sad moment when Zondo, after releasing a thick report and giving it to the president to say these people have a case to answer, he had to be called to swear them back into office. It was like laughing at him and saying, to hell with your report. The politicians have gotten away with murder. And Ramaphosa did not think he will be an exception. So a report is brought out to say, hey, chief, you need to answer. Why do you have dollars in your couch? Whatever. And he then says, no, ANC must vote in close ranks. He close ranks and say, no, we can't have this report. There's no case to answer. Okay? And then he goes to the Constitutional Court trying to review the report. They told him, no, go to the lower court. And then he says, I'm going to do nothing about it. I've gotten away with it. Why did he say that? Because not only the leadership of the ANC ignored the matter, but 6,000 delegates of the ANC gathered for days and they didn't mention the matter at all. Yesterday, someone on social media was saying, no, I was part of the delegates. I tried to raise the matter and I was suppressed. No surprises there. So it become a culture of getting away with murder. It's not only in the leadership of the ANC. To be a mistake to put it like that. To be a big mistake. It's actually a culture within the ANC from the top to right at the bottom. Because how do you explain that delegates can gather for 6 days and not raise a matter that's been in the public arena for months? We've been talking here, talking ourselves to death for 6 months. And then the parliament voted early in December, literally a week before the ANC conference, and the ANC didn't bother. The so-called Integrity Committee did not bother. And now 6 years later, the Ramaphosa is running to court to say, no. This report, I must review it. I'm exercising my right and so on. Zuma all over again. Who's been running from court to court, forum shopping for 20 years. Ramaphosa says, let me learn from the best. Ramaphosa, you have let us down. Truly you have. In 2018, we all had a collective sigh of relief when you took over from Zuma to say, oh my God, what a waste of our lives for 9 years. Oh, at least suddenly we have somebody who can save us. and you rose to the occasion and told us folk tales, fairy tales of a new dawn. Fairy tales. Tumamina, yes, clearly, you were not sendable, if there was such a way. Our Rumea. You said we must send you, but you failed us. Our Rumea, you went to do the West than Zuma. You went to do Western Zuma, and now the same constitutional court that told Zuma to stop his nonsense has told Parliament that failed again in its duty to hold you accountable. And now you are in court again, playing for time. I can tell you now, South Africa is fed up with leaders like you, and you are unlikely to get away with that matter. I hope that the ANC will learn its lesson. I understand that they withdrew their case. They wanted to intervene in this interdict of Ramaphosa. Good for them if sense is beginning to prevail. Very disappointed in a Tokodi Diza. Everybody thought, wow, what a good choice for a speaker and what have you. And when she's got an opportunity to have a courage of her convictions, her first act is to say, oh, no, I'll abide. The Constitutional Court said, no, you make sure that this committee exists, it does its work, it carries out an impeachment inquiry, and then you say, no. If Ramaphosa goes to a lower court, which is crazy, to ask it to overturn the decision of a higher court, I will abide as the Speaker of Parliament, as a leader of an entire leg of our state. A leg that's supposed to hold the other two legs accountable, to hold the executive to account, to hold the judiciary to account. The head of the legislature, Tokodi Diza, you have let us down. But anyway, those are your politics, South Africa, and you are to blame because these are the people you have voted for. But you've got another opportunity at the end of this year to vote in leaders who are credible, leaders who are going to stop the crookery that we are seeing through the Madlanga Commission, where it's clear that the rule of law is out of the window and that we are led by crooks, even within the criminal justice system, even within the same people who are supposed to enforce the law. Those are people that as we are speaking now, the country has absolutely no confidence in them. Anyway, we'll leave it there for today until we talk frankly again.